As you become more experienced, you will find yourself needing to perform the same operation over and over. A simple example of this is computing the average. You compute the average all the time when you're doing data science. You can compute the average of a vector x by computing the sum and then dividing by the length. This is longer than it really needs to be because we can define a function that does this automatically. Because we do this so often, it's more efficient to write a function that performs this operation, and this has already been done. This is what the mean function does in R. However, you will encounter situations in which the function that you need does not already exist, so you have to write your own. A simple version of a function that computes the average can be defined like this. We use this as an example so you learn how to write functions. So we're going to write a new function called AVG, stands for average. It takes x, computes the sum, assigns it to s, computes the length, assigns it to n, and then the last line inside the function brackets, s divided by n, is what is returned. So if I type average and then give it a vector, I will get back the sum divided by the length, which is the average. Now, average is a function that computes the mean, so we can show that it gives you the same answer as mean using the identical function. Note that variables defined inside a function are not saved in the workspace. So while we use s and n inside the average call, the values are created and changed only during the call. So if I define a function like we did before, but I define s equals 3 and then call average, inside of average an s is created that is not 3, it's something else, and it's assigned to s, but that only happens inside the function. If I type s after calling average, I get back 3, the value that I defined outside of the function. So the general way to define functions is as follows. You decide on a name that will be an object. Here I'm using my_function. Then you type the function is what lets R know that you're defining a function. I have the arguments inside parentheses, and then with brackets, I put all the operations that operate on x, which is defined by the user when they call this function. Note that functions are objects, so we assign them to variable names with the arrow operator. The R function called function tells R you're about to define a new function. Note that functions can have more than one variables. The way you define them is by having multiple arguments. In this example, I have x, y, and z. Now the operations inside the brackets operate with the x, y, and z defined by the user that's calling your function. For example, we can define a function that computes either the arithmetic or geometric average depending on a user-defined variable like this. Notice that arithmetic has a default value of true, but the user, when they call your new function, can change it to true or to false. Once that's done, you see that the last argument, the argument that defines what's returned, uses an if-else statement, which returns either the arithmetic or the geometric mean, depending on what the value of arithmetic is. We will learn more about how to create functions through experience as we face more and more complex tasks.